And now on Book TV, we want to introduce you to author Joel Salatin. Here's the book he's written, Your Successful Farm Business. Mr. Salatin, you don't write books for a living, but you've written several, is that correct?
Yes, I have. I've written 12, but I mainly farm for a living, yes.
And what have your books been about?
Well, they've been both how-to, about beef production, chicken production, you can farm, and then some broader cultural things like everything I want to do is illegal, and folks, this ain't normal, about our abnormality in our modern day. That's not like the historical normalcy. We're in a pretty aberrant time here. So there's broad cultural things. One of my favorite soul books is the one I wrote, The Sheer Ecstasy of Being a Lunatic Farmer, and that one kind of really describes the difference in our farming compared to the average.
Well, tell us about your farm.
Well, we're in Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, and we're in pastured livestock. So think about Tyson chicken houses and Smithfield hog factories. So our animals are all out on pasture, and they move every day or every couple of days.
They go where they want?
Well, no, they're controlled with high-tech electric fencing, but we can be very thankful we have high-tech electric fencing today. So we can actually mimic the migrational choreography of ancient times with modern technology and steer them around the landscape to get the synergistic benefits that nature offered for a long time before domestic livestock were the norm.
What are those synergistic benefits?
Well, in America, for example, the big herds of bison built the deep soils of the prairies, and of course where we live in the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia. The wolves kept them moving. Native Americans lit fires to attract them and to open up, grazing areas, and so there was a bird-plant symbiosis that was quite well managed, intricately managed and maintained. This was not a wilderness area. It was a very carefully managed landscape by both predation, climate, and people, and so by looking at that template and trying to duplicate it on a commercial domestic model, we're able to bring back the abundance that was here prior to today. People don't realize today that 500 years ago, North America grew more food than we do today. That's a pretty astounding, fact, but it's true. And so our desire is, how can we bring back that abundance, rather than a dead zone the size of Rhode Island in the Gulf of Mexico, and the erosion, the soil loss, the things that we've done.
So besides cows, do you do any other type of farming?
Yes, well, we have cows, we have pigs, chickens, turkeys, rabbits, ducks, sheep, and we have a lot of forest. So we do a lot of forestry as well.
That's a big operation.
Well, it keeps us busy. We own about 650 acres, and then we lease about another 12 to 1,300. So we're actually managing about 2,000 acres, servicing 50 restaurants, about 5,000 families, and several institutions, and direct marketing everything. We don't sell through Walmart. We don't sell into supermarkets. We own the customer. We like it that way.
So more of a food to farm or farm to
yes.
table type operation?
We're a farm, yes, absolutely.
Why do you not sell to the major chains?
Well, because a small farm is hard pressed to get enough to live on when the margins are so small. So by us wearing those notorious middleman hats, that farmers say, oh, the middleman makes all the money. Well, if that's where the money is, I want to be one, sign me up. And so we become the processor, the distributor, the marketer, the graphics artist, the person that answers the phone. And by doing that, we can increase our margin per dozen eggs or per pound of chicken or whatever. And so a small farm, then we can actually earn a nice living on a small farm because we own all that all that chain of, that chain between the farm and the consumer.
So what kind of regulations do you have to adhere to from a federal, state level?
Well, there are lots of them, and they're not always about food. They're often kind of esoteric things like zoning. So we're in an agricultural zone. We're zoned agricultural. And what that means is it's illegal for us, for example, we have 500 acres of upland hardwood forest, oaks and walnuts and, beautiful Appalachian hardwoods. It's illegal for us to go to the woods and cut a tree. We have a sawmill, so we mill it on our sawmill. That's all legal until we make a chair and sell it, then we're illegal, because chair making is manufacturing and illegal in an agricultural zone. A lot of restrictions are around food processing or food value adding. For example, it's illegal for us to smoke our own pork on farm, because smoking that's a manufacturing process as well. So those are kind of zoning issues. Technically it's illegal for me to write a book from my home office, because book writing is not agriculture. So these are very interesting private property, stipulations that have come in. But food is, of course, a big one as well. And we have customers that would love to get, for example, a chicken pot pie, for example. But it's illegal for us to make that without a freestanding, inspected kitchen with attached bathroom and a plethora of compliance regulations. So one of the problems with these regulations is that they're not size scalable. They're size discriminatory. If you're small, they're very difficult. If you're big, they're a lot easier.
So do you find the USDA to be an ally?
Oh no. If I were president, I would abolish the US. I call it the US duh. I would abolish that tomorrow. No federal agency has ever been more efficient at eliminating its constituency.
How so?
Well, most agencies grow their constituency. Welfare, housing, education, right? They grow their constituency. The USDA has almost eliminated its constituency, farmers. That was the original constituency, where they've almost, where there are so few farmers now, we actually have twice as many people incarcerated in prisons in the U.S. as we have farmers.
How has that been accomplished in your view?
Well, in my view, it's not all the government's fault. The population is complicit in this, in that the population likes cheap food. We'd rather spend more money on other things than food, and so the government has been complicit in creating food safety requirements that eliminate neighbor-to-neighbor commerce among consenting adults. So because the government defines what is safe, what is allowable in the marketplace. For example, it's fine for me to give my child 4 glasses of Mountain Dew every day, but 1 glass of raw milk, that's considered equivalent to cocaine, all right? And so when the government defines what's safe and what's unsafe, then that, and therefore what is marketable and what is not marketable, that immediately puts marketability into the hands of a bureaucracy, which typically will work at the behest of a mindset that is primarily status quo driven. The marketplace, the big players don't like competition. And so if they can, if colluding with the government regulators can keep innovation out of the marketplace, then of course that helps.
Well, you've written 2 books, You Can Farm and Your Successful Farm Business. What you've just told us doesn't sound like it's an easy gig.
No, it's not an easy gig, but there are workarounds, lots of workarounds. And so yes, do we live in a straitjacket, whatever, tyranny in many ways? Yes, but we still have plenty there's still plenty of opportunities. And so rather than dwelling on the problems, these books are about dwelling on the opportunities. And the opportunities are that we can either find ways around, whether it's to build a little commercial kitchen, collaborate with somebody who already has one, work with a processor that's already licensed. I mean, those are some of the things that we've done. But beyond that, you can also elect to just not comply. And there are now more and more people around the country who are creating direct farmer to consumer transactional models that are not in commerce. That's the legal word, in commerce. I can give you a glass of raw milk, that's great, but I can't sell it to you. I can give you a backyard processed pork chop or pepperoni, but I can't sell it to you. So if we can figure out a workaround to keep it out of in-commerce, we're okay. So there's a lady in North Carolina that started a 501c3 food church. And if you join the church, then you can participate in transactions. There's an outfit in Kentucky that started a country club, a food club, where you join like a country club, but instead of playing golf, you get homemade cheese and raw milk and all sorts of cool stuff. And so there are some really cool workarounds, and in fact, we're going to host a first, I don't know if it'll be the first and the last, but anyway, an introductory Rogue Food Conference, January 25th in Cincinnati next year, to showcase these clever workarounds to compliance.
We often read or hear about bailouts or payments to farmers. Do you accept those? Do you take those?
I don't even know where the USDA office is. We don't play those games. We don't take grants because the grant, in order to give you a grant, it had to be stolen from somebody before. So it's actually not the government's money. The government got it from somebody else. And so we don't participate in any of those programs at all. But by direct marketing and establishing a brand and doing compost instead of chemical fertilizer, and doing perennials instead of annuals, and mobile infrastructure instead of stationary infrastructure. I mean, there's a whole lot of things there's a lot of latitude within the regulations. And so that's what we're working on, is where are our, well, in business they call it unfair advantages. Where are our unfair advantages within the system? Let's leverage those and see where we can exploit those little, cracks in the structure.
What's your take on GMO and organic?
Yeah, well, GMO, I'm against genetically modified organisms. However, I deeply appreciate the need to research and to, science and to try new things. So my take on GMOs, unlike many of my organic farming friends who want to outlaw them categorically, I say, let the research proceed. But if one of your patented beings invades my farm and gives me foreign beings that I don't want, that should be considered trespass, property trespass, just as if your bull came over and tromped up my rose bushes. Well, we're so convoluted in justice in America today that that not only if your GMO it comes over and has a these are inherently promiscuous beings. Okay. So if they come over and have a promiscuous orgy on my farm, giving me beings that I don't want, not only can I not go down and get the magistrate to kit you for trespass, but our courts have ruled I have to pay you a royalty for the privilege of your beings coming over and affecting my beings. So it's an extremely convoluted type of justice that we have today. And so if your property were truly protected that way, like it is from bulls and cars and burglars, if it were protected, that would put a break, if you will, a historical and maybe we could even say an organic break, if you will, on GMO development and expansion. Maybe we'd have them, maybe we wouldn't, but at least we would be protected from them invading my space, from that fist hitting my nose.
Who's this book written for?
Yeah, that book is written for all of the people who've ever dreamed of having a pleasant life in the country, of being a farmer, but they've been told by family, friends, business associates, co-workers, you're crazy, you can't make any money. There ain't no money in farming. It's a hard drudgery, bad life, blah, blah, blah. And so it's ultimately a book about how do we take our current situation, our context in modern times, and how do we actually go from scratch and build a profitable, enjoyable farm that's emotionally satisfying, economically satisfying, and environmentally satisfying within the context of today.
Here's the book. It's called Your Successful Farm Business. Joel Salatin is the author.
Thank you.